All right, so good morning and welcome everyone to the Brooklyn DD Council. It's our first meeting back since the summer. We hope everyone had a great summer, enjoyed the weather, and it pretty much continued up until this weekend when things started to cool off. So hopefully everyone had a good weekend. So again, this is our general council meeting. We meet once a month, usually the fourth Monday at 10 a.m. via Zoom. We are open to suggestions and ideas if people want to do hybrid in-person meetings, maybe a couple of times a year, different things like that. There was a survey sent out towards the end of the summer. I will resend it. We didn't get much of a response to it, talking about meeting dates and times if it works for everyone. We understand we can't meet everyone's schedule and make everyone happy, but we want to make the majority of people happy and present and involved with the council. A few upcoming changes that we've implemented at the council is we're reworking some of the committees. We realize going to this hybrid world and everyone's time being very valuable and pulled in a lot more directions. Last year when the council kind of got back on the map in Brooklyn, we started a lot of committees and it was pulling people to a lot of different meetings, a lot of expectations to be available on different dates and times. And we saw the meeting numbers kind of not really there. Not so we realized maybe we overwhelmed people a little bit trying to do too much. So one of the things that we did, and I believe it's going to be starting next month, is we merged three of our committees into one. We had the Children's Committee, which on a good month maybe had 5 or 6 people attending. We had the Transition Committee, which is probably one of our most popular committees, and that's as people are aging out of the Board of Ed and looking for the next steps. And then we also had the Employment Committee, which started up last year. And that had some good attendance. They were trying to be creative with some afternoon meetings, some morning meetings, some night meetings, but never great attendance. So one of the things that we decided to do, because we realized people can't be on 10 different meetings, they probably have responsibilities in multiple boroughs for their own agency, for their own life, if they're a parent and their own child. We merge those committees, which will now be called the Meaningful Day in Employment Committee. And they are just working out the details to figure out the best day. It used to be they were looking at keeping it on the day that the transition meeting was, which I think was the third Thursday of the month in the morning. So they're going to send out some information. They're just finalizing the details on that, but it will be focusing on transition, children's services, and employment services all in one group. So a lot of times, a lot of those people are the same people attending all the meetings. So hopefully it'll be less overwhelming for people to get all of that information and they could all gather in one place once a month. We will still have the Family Provider and Care Management Information Committee, and that is chaired by Debbie and Rose. They meet Wednesdays in the morning, and then followed by that, we have the Legislative Committee. They've also worked to kind of understand and respect people's time, where now they each meet for an hour and they meet back to back. So at 10 a.m. is the Family Provider and Care Management Information Committee, and then 11 a.m. is the Legislative Committee. They use the same link to try to make it easier for people, so you don't have to schedule as much time in different places throughout the month. And then the last committee that we're hoping to have soon, and we have a couple of people that we just need to solidify dates to meet with to get it up and running, is the Residential and Housing Committee. We understand that that's a very important committee to get going for Brooklyn. There are a lot of people with residential and housing questions and concerns, and we want to be able to get the advocacy in that area and the information shared out. So hopefully we'll have more information on that for you guys soon. And always, for all of this information, please remember to look at our website, bkddcouncil.org. We put all updates and information regarding our committees, our contacts for all the chairs and the officers of the council, all available on that website at all times. Any important OPW information, New York State information, anything that impacts Brooklyn or the field, I try to get up there as soon as it comes to us. So with that being said, I believe, Rochelle, unless I'm missing something, I think that covered the updates for Brooklyn, for the council at least. So I will pass it on to OPWDD. Welcome back, Nina.
Good morning.
Dues?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Hold on one second, Nina. I'm
Sure.
sorry. Yes, Rochelle, I forgot a big important topic. One of the other big topics you saw in my email was for the last 4 or 5 years, Brooklyn Council has not collected membership dues, and we are starting to do that again this year. I did include that in the email I send out. I will send it out again. Um, it's a minimal cost that we're asking for. And again, it's only for providers. So for any advocates, family members, people supported, members, unless you're a provider, you don't have to worry about that. But we ask for providers. I'm trying to pull it up because I don't remember exactly what the rate was that we put out. 1 second, right here. Oh, an annual fee of $150. So that covers you from September through June. It helps us continue to maintain the website, continue to maintain the Zoom account, um, be able to advertise, put different events together throughout the year. And then also for any paid agencies that are members, it also provides discounts for tables at our events. So I will pass this back out. Please share it with whoever is responsible for that within your agency. And the other big thing it does is it puts your name and a link to your agency's website on our website. So when people come to the Brooklyn Council website for resources, they can find all the agencies that are involved with the Brooklyn Council when they're looking for different services, supports, and resources throughout the borough. All right. Thank you for that, Rochelle. Completely slipped my mind.
Okay.
All right.
Back to me. Brian, do you hear
Yes.
me?
Sorry about that, Nina. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. So good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be here today and to be back with our regular group of people. So I have some interesting and important updates from OPWDD. I'm going to start with some updates for our Modern Work campaign. As you remember, that campaign we launched back in March, and it helps people who are looking for jobs to go through the website that we have created together with the agencies. And this website helps to educate the public and job-seeking public about the important and fulfilling nature of direct support work, and is connecting potential job candidates who can visit OPWDD provider agencies and look for the jobs. And today we have about 227 provider agencies participating in the campaign. Since launching in March, the campaign's advertising has brought about 300,000 job seekers to the website, and we had more than 20,000 clicks with the people who are looking for jobs who went through this campaign website to the direct web pages of our providers. In August, our campaign released to all DD service providers a comprehensive recruitment toolkit that is intended to help agencies to enhance their recruitment activities. So this recruitment toolkit is available on the campaign website. So if there are agencies who have not joined our campaign, they can still do that. And moving on with Disability Voting Rights Week. So last week was a Disability Voting Rights Week. It was from September 9 to September 16. The care managers and agency staff are responsible to help people who want to vote, to make plans to vote and to cast their ballots. And accessible voting equipment is available to all polling sites. I want to remind that the deadline to register is October 26th, and the early voting runs from October 26th to November 3rd. Election date is November 5th, and anyone who is looking for assistance or wants to find additional information with registering to vote, we have a person in Albany. He's Michael Arzel. He's our OPWDD National Voter Registration Act liaison, and I can provide his information in a chat. So the next thing I would like to let you know that self-direction evaluation is underway with the Guidehouse, and the release is anticipated. The release of the report, of the final report, is anticipated in spring of 2025, and OPWDD is planning opportunities for stakeholder engagement to inform of the evaluation. Also on our OPWDD website, we have the progress updates with the timeframes and timelines. It's on the American Rescue Plan Act webpage. You can visit the website for more details. Our CCO program evaluation is also underway. American Institute of Research was contracted to evaluate the CCO program. So as of today, we had several engagements with the CCOs and with the American research here, and several online surveys were developed. One was for care managers to better understand their role and experience in providing care managers to people with IDD. One survey was for providers to gain insight into the experience working with the CCOs. And the last one was for people receiving services and their families to understand how CCOs have been supporting them. We have this American research, the American Institute for Research, have met with 35 families, and they have completed the interviews. They also met with 2 care manager focus groups and 1 self-advocate focus group. Those interviews are completed, and the final report is also expected in early 2025. I also have some information on the final managed care evaluation report. So Guidehouse completed its 18 months evaluation and provided its final report to OPWDD. This report is published on our OPWDD website. The final report does not recommend a full transition of OPWDD's system of services and supports to managed care. Guidehouse recommends the long-term services and supports for OPWDD should remain in the fee-for-service model. The final report does offer several clear suggestions and considerations that OPWDD will evaluate. And this includes that the potential for better integrating for the physical and behavioral health needs for people with IDD through the establishment of specialized managed care organizations supported with value payment-based structures. This approach may improve the availability and access to specialized care for people with IDD. The reports, this report recommends specifically pertains to people who are eligible for Medicaid only. And if OPWDD chooses to pursue managed care, we should first explore the viability and implementation feasibility of a partial managed care model in collaboration with Department of Health and Department of Budget. And another recommendation for managed care was that we should continue to its efforts to build on the goals of the strategic plan to improve the quality and care and access to services, and which means OPWDD should increase the availability and access to day and employment activities. We should continue to make regulatory and policy changes to improve health equity and access and reduce administrative complexities. And OPWDD should also increase the capacity to serve people with complex needs Guidehouse further recommends that OPWDD continues its focus on evaluating the CCO model of care coordination. Guidehouse highlighted several areas in the report that are working well for people with IDD, and that is a system of HCBS services and providing services such as residential, day and community rehabilitation, and family support and services. They noted the positive care management experiences for people in need of services who can be supported individually for a long time. They noted the ability of people to receive services based on their choice through person-centered planning. And they also highlighted programmatic successes of the fully integrated duals advantage for individuals with IDD FIDA through FIDA, which is in an alignment with the state's ongoing support of the demonstration and its future. Guidehouse highlighted the areas that are not working well for people with IDD, which include barriers to access care, including provider shortages or lack of specialty trained providers, complicated administrative processes, long delays. They noted the lack of access quality of care is more difficult for people with complex medical and behavioral needs, and lack of consistency in receiving medical, behavioral, and dental care is simply being denied in care. Managed care evaluation final report does not include the financial analysis of managed care broadly. So again, as I mentioned, if OPWDD chooses to pursue that option, the fiscal analysis of this will have to be completed. And at this time, there are no recommendations. There will be no decisions made on the recommendations provided by the Guidehouse. OPWDD will further evaluate their recommendations, and we will engage the stakeholders in further discussions if we decide to explore the options suggested by the Guidehouse. And finally, I just want to mention that, as you remember, last year, the 2024 budget included the ombudsman funding to establish the ombudsman program. And we have chosen, let me find my notes, we have chosen through the competitive process, we have chosen Community Service Society of New York to develop the ombudsman program that will identify and investigate, refer, and resolve complaints that are made by or made on behalf of people with IDD. And as the new ombudsman, Community Service Society of New York will help educate people about their rights and provide access and to a process that allows for timely and independent resolution. And we are hoping that this program will launch by the end of 2024. So in an acknowledgement of the importance of the people with IDD and experience of those who receiving people from, for those who receive services from OPWDD, OPWDD is creating a new advocacy services office, which will report directly to the acting commissioner. And this office will oversee the ombudsman program and will focus on the advocacy of efforts. And this office will lead the peer specialist program. The peer specialist will advocate alongside on behalf of people who receive IDD services and strengthen the capacity of self-advocates and ensure that decision makers consider the perspectives of people who lived in the experience participating in staff training and providing input on policies, procedures, and working with OPWDD leadership. So that is very exciting that we will have a new advocacy service office, and right now we are recruiting the staff for this office, and hopefully the office will be staffed by the end of October, and they will work together with the Community Service Society of New York to implement the program by the end of the year. So that is all for me today. Okay.
Thank you, Nina. I already see a question. Go ahead, Rochelle.
Yeah, thank you, Nina. Just a quick question. In the family stakeholder meeting, we were also told about the commissioner made her report, but in her report about the advocacy services office, which we think is, which obviously is a very great improvement, and
Right.
also to have the Office of Peer Specialists to include people with lived experience is a big advance. However, one thing I wanted to be clear about, when we asked her about the relationship between the advocacy office and the ombuds program, she said that the director of advocacy would collaborate with the ombuds office, but not oversee it, that the ombuds office is independent. Is that your understanding as well?
Well, my notes have slightly different meaning, but I'm gonna follow up on that.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of an important
Thank
point.
you.
So we'd appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for noting that.
Chris?
Yes, good morning. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay. I have a question, Nina. And I agree with Rochelle what she's saying, because if you're going to do something new on this, this means they're going to report also to the councils. When I say councils, I'm talking about the advisory and the DD council.
I would think that they're gonna work together with the councils.
Can you please be clear on that? Because the last time I heard something like that, a promise was made and it was not followed up. And and the other question I just want to add in, when you're mentioning self-advocacies, can we also, don't forget we have advocates for it. Don't forget we do have some advocates for people with disabilities are not self-advocate like me or others who are outside of that. So can we please don't forget, don't leave us out too. And some of us who may not, if we do have parents who are here, may not understand what self-advocacy means. Because I'm looking at the screen here and I have people's faces looking like, huh? So I want to be, can we please be clear what we're saying? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Doris? Doris, you're muted.
Good morning. My question segues to Chris's. I want to clarify something for myself. This new advocacy office, that is for families have the ability to contact this office with issues that they have with OPWD services. If you could just clarify that to me. So families, providers, like who is this advocacy office going to be serving? Or how does it work exactly? If you could clarify that for me. You might have said it, but I'm a little unclear. Thank you.
Okay, and I do not have detailed notes, but it's my understanding that this new office will work together with the ombudsman staff on, advocating alongside on behalf of people with developmental disabilities. This will help us to strengthen the capacity of self-advocates and the self-advocacy community and to represent their own interests and educate people about civil rights and address any complaints that people may have in our system. We also have Richard Bosch on the phone, and maybe he has more information. I was not part of that meeting that you had last week.
All good questions. And this is a new model. I think it's spreading through the states. My wife is actually an ombudsman advocate for the state of New Jersey for nursing homes. And it's a very relaxed program where her role is to speak with the people in the nursing homes, find out their concerns, advocate on their behalf. But it's not like the OMIG or any office that's reporting incidents. So we'll see how it develops, and I'm sure OPW is still working on how it should work. I mean, the OPW world has so much oversight. I'm hoping this is a more one-to-one personal and working with self-advocates and families, and not get bogged down in paperwork. So I really don't think they know yet exactly what they're going to do, and they're probably developing it. And let's hope they don't come out with 20 pages of regulations on how it's going to operate. So we'll see.
All right. Nina, I have one quick question and I'll get to Debbie. Regarding the Guidehouse report on managed care, is there a time frame or anything that you're aware of that's known behind the scenes of when they're going to respond to it?
No, there is no timeline to that. We are looking into this report. There will be, again, and they are stressing that we will have the full transparency and we will be working on the stakeholders on the next steps.
Okay, thank you. Debbie?
Muting. Oh, okay, got it. Nina, when it comes to the managed care, I hope that they also take into account that due to the fact that no one ever thought this would happen, many of our children are living very, very long. And because of Social Security, many of them collect under their parents' number, Social Security number, and they are because they're in the income level, they do get the extra services that Medicare offers. So I hope that if and when managed care comes in, that they do not mess up individuals who do collect Social Security under their parents, and does not affect the Medicare as well as the Medicaid services that are very well needed. In reference with the ombudsman, I do hope that also both this information will be brought up, I have a feeling, to the statewide DDAC, but also on Wednesday to the statewide Family Support Advisory Council, because we do, this will be very important for us to know about, because since we advocate not just for our own children, but the families whose children do live at home with their families and are receiving family support services. So we would like to be given reports on this on a regular basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Nina. I don't see any other questions. If anyone does have any questions, you can get them to the council and I'll pass them on to Nina, or you can email Nina directly. Either way will work. But thank you, Nina, for always being here and participating in these meetings and giving all this information. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Richard Bosch from the Interagency Council.
Good morning. And since this is the first meeting of the year of the council, and I've noticed that other councils that I attend seem to have a lot of new people. So Brian asked me to give a little history of IAC and what we are. And IAC stands for Interagency Council of Developmental Disabilities Agencies. We were formed back in, I think it was 77 or 78. It's not on our website anymore. That's something I wrote down. But it was put together at the very beginning of the system when the governor was looking to get people out of the institutions and into the community. And he looked to the different organizations like Catholic Charities and Protestant Welfare, different family groups like ARC. And there were about, I think, 20 to 25 agencies got together and said, you know, we're all fighting for the same thing. we're all going to the commissioner and asking the same questions. Let's all get together and try to speak with one voice and work out the issues. And it was a very collaborative model. I think what's been lost in our system in the last 10 years is the fact that the very beginning of the system was a nice collaboration between government and providers and families, and some self-advocates. It's an area which has really grown. But in the beginning, everything was collaborative. And since I was around back then, I started with OPW in '78 and then went on to IAC in 1991. Good Lord. Again, it was very collaborative. We would go up to the central office in Albany, and there would be half the room were providers. There'd be some families, and there were state staff, and we worked out solutions together. I think a lot of us has seen that now OPW, and I'm mainly talking about the central office, get together in a room and make up the rules with very little input from providers, at least at the very beginning of it. And we're hoping that will change and get back to the collaboration, get back to person-centered and real solutions. And I'm not faulting the OPW central office people because they weren't around either at that time. Very few historians around other than Ellie Roofer. Sorry, Ellie, just have to throw that in there. So what IAC is about is sharing information amongst providers. We now have about 160 provider agencies. We have a number of what we call affiliate agencies, which are mainly family advocacy groups. We have some subscribing members, which are the professional for-profit firms that support our agencies. And we meet regularly. We have 10 different, or actually, I think it's up now. I think it's about a dozen what we call committees. So it's a residential group, very similar to the DD councils. Residential, fiscal, training, so on and so forth. But we get together for the main purpose of networking and sharing information, and then lobbying on the behalf of our member agencies and on the field in general. And our role, again, is to foster collaboration amongst all the parties, including government. So that's pretty much what we do. Our big events every year are, we have an annual lobby days, where we get well to Albany. We set the schedule, meet with legislators to talk about the hot topics of the year and what we're looking for in the way of budget. This year, we're going to go up on February 25th and 26th are our main lobby days. And again, what that consists of, we head up to Albany, we have a big briefing in the downstairs of the Albany Hilton. Everyone's assigned to a team, and they go meet the legislators, and we try to make sure every legislator has people from their district who are visiting. Then we also have a special education lobby days, where this year will be May 5th and 6th, 2025. And they're advocating on behalf of school age, the not-for-profit school age, preschool, and early intervention programs. And it's quite an event. You get to see how government works, get to have an impact on, hopefully have an impact on the budget. And other than that, we do have pretty much good relationships with government officials, a lot of, especially in the education world, where a lot of the things had fallen apart over the years, but Chris Trieber at IAC has formed some excellent relationships with the highest levels of state ed and Department of Ed in New York City. So we take what your priorities are and work on your behalf. So that's the introduction. I don't know if people have any questions on that, but then I have a few issues I'd like to just go over. The big hot topic I think you're going to be hearing a lot about is the whole person integrated care or whole person supports. And this was started not too long ago, but by a group of providers and families who basically are saying the current system is not working. People aren't getting the services they really need. The financial supports aren't there. Too much administration. So this just started, but all I can encourage people to do now is go to the website, which I put at the very beginning of today's chat. It was at 10:05 a.m.
I just reposted it in the chat for everyone.
Oh, okay. So make sure you read that. And I think you're going to be hearing and seeing a lot more discussion of this. It's a good group. And someone asked, well, what's the difference between managed care and integrated care? Well, besides managed care, when you mention that to certain people, especially the DD councils, the backs go up and you go, I don't want managed care because I'll lose my doctor, I'll lose my provider. And managed care is mostly about funding and being efficient with government's dollars. Where whole person integrated care is just about that. And it's still forming the very beginning stages, but it's not about just saving the dollars. It's about integrating care, both in the health world and the behavioral world, and just basic care that our people need. And that's it's getting underway, but I think there's a lot of force behind it. I think the new commissioner hears it, and hopefully we'll be making some change in government. Nina mentioned the Guidehouse report. We also posted that one. When you first read it, you go, oh boy, they're saying exactly what the DD councils have said. We should keep the fee for service, and only managed care should be under behavioral and medical. But you have to remember, managed care doesn't work for our system. So you should read that report. Fee for service, it's okay, that's better than managed care, but fee for service has not been working and funding the services. We have too many providers and fiscal difficulty. It's not getting person-centered. It takes up to a year for a family to get linked to services. And that's not good. We go back to the late 70s, early 80s, early 90s, and families would get to know the provider agencies. And when services became available, the family would get that. So again, it was much more collaborative. So all I can say now is read those two reports. I think the councils will all be bringing, put that on their agenda for the future. I know IAC is going to be having speakers at our special meetings, and the whole person supports effort. The leader of that is, no, I just blanked. Courtney Burke, former commissioner of OPW. Very, very bright person, well connected, and she wants to see this develop and succeed. So with that said, on this budget world, what we're already looking for the 25-26 budget we'll be advocating for is right now we're targeting a request of 7.8% increase, which is based on this year's CPI, Consumer Price Index, of 2.9%, and add to that the CPI factors that were not included the last 2 years. We continue to lose money every year because we don't keep up with the rate of inflation. We're also going to be advocating that the legislature creates an independent commission to study the adequacy of wages. We've been fortunate to some degree that OPW and the governor has realized that we have to keep up with the minimum wage. But that, and even though most of our DSPs get more than the minimum wage, the restrictions of what goes along with working as a DSP. You're still getting paid more at McDonald's or at Walmart, and you're not getting cited for possible abuse and getting put on, putting out of work for a while. So that, excuse me. So again, our lobby days this year will be February 25th and 26th, 2025, and the education lobby days are May 5th and 6th. We're doing everything we can to help get out the vote. And thank you, Nina, for publishing that information. It's another important year. Get the right people in office. Few surveys we've been doing that have been really concerning IAC. One has to do with property development. Government OPW issues what's called a prior property approval, a PPA, and that's what the provider takes to the bank so you can get financing for that residence or that day program. And the PPA process is bogged down in mud. I'm not sure. I think part of it has to do with that lack of collaborative spirit between the government and providers and the people we serve. And Nina was part of the system when the PPA process moved quickly and moved nice. And I could call Nina or her supervisors and say, this thing is bogged down, and they would figure out how to get it going. That spirit doesn't seem to be there, but that's one thing we're going to be pushing this year. Also going to be doing a survey on the ISS program. Well, it was the ISS program, the housing subsidy. That was started out as a program that someone who could live independently would get a subsidy from OPW to rent their own apartment, get furniture, etc. And then that's bogged down in the mud, and it's just taking forever. So that's we're going to be surveying, what people are doing now to get through it. And government's aware of it. OPW has been making some adjustments in the subsidy budgets, but it's not going quickly enough. And one last thing I'll mention, somehow IAC's become the place to contact if you're missing a person from your residence or your day program or from your family. And we basically just do that because it's needed, because we worry about the people you're serving. So if you send an email to me, it's richard@iacny.org, or to Mary Knox, mary@iacny.org. And then we get a notice out to, we have like a 4,000 person mailing list. And it's not always successful, but it helps. And the thing I'll ask everybody, if you have a missing person, and before you have a missing person, make sure you have a good quality photograph of the person. That really helps. Police and others recognize the person. And then the other main thing is always include the police precinct that you contacted and that should be reached out to. If you've seen that person, you know where they are. It was rewarding last week when we had a missing person, and they were down in the Coney Island subway station, and the police had posted pictures of this person all over the place, and they found them. And a lot of times people end up in hospitals. Like I ended up going to Coney Island Hospital, and they were joined with their family again. Finally, on the education world, and Chris Trieber will be joining in the future, and probably will be part of your education subcommittee. But they still have the serious problems of recruiting teachers and teacher assistants. Major part of the problem is that DOE is also short. So where do they go when they need a teacher? They go to our providers and say, listen, if you'd like to earn $30,000 or $40,000 more a year and have a good retirement system, good health benefits, come work for us, but you have to show up tomorrow morning. And so a lot of teachers have left. They get their experience of like a year, and then they go work for the Board of Ed. So that's another major initiative, and we just learned that the Board of Ed is now opening up its own preschool, special ed preschool programs. And to get the teachers for that, they're stealing from our program. So that's a serious problem that we're all dealing with. So that's probably enough. I'm willing to field some questions.
All right, thank you, Richard. There were some hands up when you were speaking, but I don't see any anymore. So maybe you answered the questions that they had.
Chris had his hand up. My Christopher.
Yeah, it's not anymore though.
It's okay. Well, I have one question. When you, Richard, how come that when you do lobby days, how come you never ask the advisory councils for assistance? I know you'll say, well, we're under the commissioner, but still we do get, our families get services that are covered by agencies and no one asks us. And then we looked at like we don't want to help, and that's not true.
And I think that's a good idea. You know, we do get some information from we have board members who are part of the advisory council. You know, Kathy Nowak,
She's our co-chair for the statewide.
Right. So she gives us feedback on what's going on there. But no, I'll write that down and make sure the advisory council is more formally involved,
because you know, another thing we're very happy to do, I'm going to talk for the advisory for Brooklyn, since we are in Brooklyn. We do love to share your information, for instance, see that our families understand the way to advocate, and we just don't want to do it like only in February. We want it to be done year round, because we want, if agencies that are with you are funded well and the elected officials understand it, then we can have more and better services. And that's what our role is. We want to make sure families get the right family support services. And then the other role is that we have to get families prepared eventually which is the appropriate residential type setting for their children. So we want to work together, because we don't want someone to be like what you said about when a person's lost, and you know, that was Transit District 34 that helped find the child and brought him to the Coney Island Hospital. I've seen them do it before, but we want to make sure that we're helping and working as a team. I don't want any services stopped. I want it to be continuing and get stronger. So please keep us informed. We always will keep you informed by sending you information. And IAC is always welcome to the Brooklyn Advisory Council's meetings at all times.
Okay. And Deborah just reminded me that the discussion recently at council meetings, other meetings, is people are remembering the days when we had a lot of family support services. And to OPW, that means, well, that's 100% state funded. Oh, we just like to have Medicaid funded. Somehow we got to get back to having 100% state funded. It's a lot more flexible. The person doesn't have to have Medicaid.
It's absolutely correct, Richard, and I don't disagree. And that was done by the former Commissioner Moore. And he said that was because, he says, well, New York City, I'm quoting him. This is not my idea. He said to us that New York City, because of we're the so-called richest counties, I'm talking about the 5 boroughs, but he says other counties don't have money or want to pay for the full 100%. So that's why he says we're going to do 50% from the federal and 50% from the state. And he said it was family support like programs. Well, he did. Now, I also, before anyone says to me, why didn't you tell me you didn't want this or that? If everybody has to remember the word advisory is in our titles. We could advise and say we may like it or not, but we heard what he said and it was done, and don't disagree with you about family support services. And that's why we're working very hard, and we have it. And in my report, you'll hear that we've made some good progress with the reimbursement. We've changed it even better for now.
Okay.
Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome.
Wei has his hand up.
Yes. Hi, didn't see you all a long while. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Just a little bit upon on Richard, because I know not just our DSP, our provider are living our career. Also, our care manager also living the career because the home health aid company is paying more to a care manager to become their care coordinator for those home health aid agencies. If you do consistently work with the CCOs, you have hear that they always looking for people, but extremely going more crazy in these few months because they really short of staff. I was trying to urge if anybody can give this feedback to the state and OPWDD about how do we do something more than just give a more salary that may not catch up though to the inflation, like what we just said. Like, right, we got a raise, but it's still a little less than McDonald's, right? And other I know OPWD is like, oh, if you are a DSP, you are a care worker, you have more opportunity to step to the future, but that is future. That is something that might happen like a decade, 5 years later. But how do we secure the life here? There's a fancy thing the city government released recently to let you calculate how much you need to make to comfortably living in your region, living in your county. That if people do something like that, you can realize a 20 years old young man, 30 years old people, they can't afford anything in Brooklyn. I'll share the link to you all later.
All right, thank you. And I think that is
Yeah.
some of IAC, they are involved with working with the CCOs. I've been a part of work groups with the CCOs and the providers. So I know that does go on behind the scenes. Sorry, but I can answer that for you, Richard.
Hey, Brian, unfortunately, I do have to leave now for my wife's medical appointment.
Okay.
So I'll catch up to you next
I'll
month.
be quick. This is Chris. I'll be quick. This is Chris, because my hand was the last one up. I'm gonna be quick. Richard, just to remind everyone, because you're here, please don't forget Wednesday is the MTA Capitol. We still need, even elected official representatives are here. We do need to make sure the Capitol goes through 100% for all accessibility, not just on the subways and buses, but all railroads are also on the list as well, which I will explain later. If you have
And
any
I think that
questions
was
later,
shared
Richard,
and
just
passed
email
out.
me. I know, but
The-
I just want to be clear because I just want to be clear. He didn't forget Wednesday.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Thank you, Richard.
Okay,
Good
sorry.
luck with everything.
Okay.
No problem. Thanks for your report. All right. Before we get to other committee updates, I'm actually gonna go. I know our presenter is here, so I think we can jump to him since he's been sitting here, and then we'll get to the rest of our standing reports. So I'm happy to welcome Marc Safman, who's joining us today. Mark is a consultant. He's with the Deafblind Inclusion, and he's going to be talking about Rev Up, which is a voting initiative to help voting issues and getting the word out for the IDD population. Mark is also the co-founder of New York Deafblind Advocates. So Mark is very involved in this field, is a member of this field, and very involved in supporting this field as a professional as well. So Mark, I know I didn't do you justice with that introduction. I know there's a lot more you've been involved in and a part of, but welcome. And the floor is yours. Did we lose Mark? Oh, okay, I see him.
Let's see. My name is Marc Safman. I live in Astoria. Actually, I'm deafblind. I'm sighted deafblind. It's been interesting because I had brain surgery when I was 16, and I grew up without the internet, trying to work with people with pen and paper for the past 20, 30 years until the technology improved, and I can put these apps now on my phone and mobile devices, to get speech to text, which is very helpful, but very late in my career. I am working with, I began being an advocate just because of all the problems I faced when I was at work and the vague laws. That's why I got into voting. Yeah, helping people to vote. So this year I received a micro grant from RevUp, which is the project of the American Association of Persons with Disabilities. And the goal is really to get, increase the number of people who have disabilities, get them registered to vote, and then explain to them, when they can vote, the early vote periods, the general election day, and then the options for voting with the early mail absentee, and then there's the accessibility ballot. So can explain things like the ballot marking device. And I do have I've made up a flyer, and then I've also made up a braille version of it, which I will be having getting soon. Both the Board of Elections and the Campaign Finance Board, don't do a lot in the way of publishing material in braille or teaching candidates about accessibility. So, but that's where if the group wanted to have an event, is having an event before, I guess, before election day, I'm happy to attend because I have these flyers that we can distribute. There's an image description I have, but I can be happy to talk about my voting experience, just using the ballot marking device, how to do that, and also like the various voting styles. Also, what if there's support for interpreters or to get rides. Like I'm gonna just put in the chat here. Lift Up is again offering a program where you can reach out, to get assistance for riders, rides to the polls. Just trying to find out more details about what that is. But they do have that program, and it was also distributed. The NAACP is involved with that partnering. Uber has their own program, but I haven't been able to find any information about that. But you can, I put my contact information in chat. You can always reach out to me, and I'll be happy to schedule confirmed dates. I'll be happy to, like I was outside the Brooklyn Public Library Inclusive Services event over the weekend. And then I know the House School Library is hosting an event on the 18th and 19th up at this Diverse Foundation Library. So I'll be happy to go out there and just have registration cards and can walk people through the registration and make sure, understand vote. And talk to people about the importance of voting. I mean, like there was a National Voter Registration Day down in Bed-Stuy, and we just sat out there for the afternoon. But people just came by talking. We did talk with a couple of people. One gentleman who had, told me he was 60 years old and he had never voted, and was saying that no, he just didn't believe in voting, and was able to convince him to stay a little bit longer and talk with the assembly member about why voting is important, how it is important for for disabled populations. A lot of people ask me about SSI and SSDI, and how we could protect it. I was kind of like, well, are you registered to vote? That's the first step, is to register to vote, make a plan for voting, and be aware of the issues that you're voting on. So I'd be happy to, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to come out to an event that you have before election day, and I can share a whole lot of experiences I know with the deafblind community in organizing events. I can have many people think that Zoom captioning is not necessarily the most effective, and there are a lot of easy better solutions out there, particularly for people who are deafblind. But there's a lot of resources. If you don't know them, you can reach out to me. I know culturally appropriate interpreters people can be concerned about, and there are like the National Alliance for Black Interpreters does have a chapter. There's also Hispanic groups in the area. There's Asian deaf groups in the area that can be contacted about providing interpreters who might be culturally appropriate for your event.
That's great. Mark, I know you said you'll go out to groups. Like, do you go within agencies, small settings? Do you have a certain size group that you prefer to go to, or you're just open to anything where there's interest, and if you have availability, you'd be willing to do that?
No, I'm absolutely right. No, I'm absolutely. I registered one voter on Saturday, and I thought it was terrific. So, and I talked with a lot of other people, other groups that were there. So I'm happy to come out to, we're looking to target people who have been historically marginalized. And I know that there's a lot of groups that they're like, well, we're not that big of a group. Contact me. I'd be happy to show up and talk to a small group of people. Go to the barber shop, go to the corner store, and just talk to people. Because it's about bringing the voting process to people and making them aware that hey, there's nothing special about voting. Registering a vote. It's just a matter of being able to do so. And they're like, oh, I didn't realize that's the way to do it. So I'd be happy to come out to anywhere and just talk and make sure people. I'll bring the information with me and these flyers. Do have my flyer, it does have QR codes on it and the links. So we'll try to make it easier to get people registered to vote and then talk about how to vote, make sure they're aware of where they need to go to vote and how to get there.
So thank you. I did share those flyers that you had sent me and that you're showing now. They are in the chat. I put them on our Facebook page and I also put them on our website this morning. So if any
Brian, you froze. I don't know if you can hear me.
He did, you're right, he did freeze. Wait, let me see. Christopher, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, is Brian frozen or not?
Yeah, he's frozen. Can the
Okay.
vice chair take over for questions?
Yeah, for now, we'll have to. Wait a
Sure.
second, I got some kind of,
Marjorie, do you want to continue?
Marjorie, you there?
I'm here. Hold on, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, Marjorie, I did raise my hand because I did see Mark. I met Mark at 2 committees.
Yes.
So, Mark, can you hear me? Marc Safman? Okay, Mark and I, as well as Christopher, we're on the New York City Board of Elections ADA Accessibility Committee for voters. And when I met Mark, it was last week, the information, the flyer that he gave, not just to, I know, Brian, but he gave to us. And also he was at the, Carrie had this fantastic resource fair this past Saturday at the Grand Army Plaza from Inclusive Services. We saw each other again and he knows I did share it. So I'm hoping he can hear me, or he does read off of his phone, has the type of device it has, like where, because I was able to speak to him because I can't do sign language to save my life. And he's very open-minded and to be able to reach out and work and so that we can understand the needs of people who are either he's back, Brian, who don't maybe understand sign language or who have visual. So it was very interesting because not everybody who's deaf uses sign language. Some people use tactiles, he explained to me. And visually, he also explained to me the different degrees of blindness and also that we need to make sure and advocate that the braille is bigger for them to touch, but that's another thing. And we do have family members as well as individuals who do have these different disabilities, and we need to learn how to work with them. Hi, Brian. We see you're back. Marjorie took over for now. She's doing great.
Thank you guys.
Even Chris and Rochelle, we all stepped in to be there for you, okay?
Apologize for that. I lost power for a second in my house. So that was
Understand.
fun. All the
Oh,
lights
boy.
went out and I was talking to you guys. The screen was still up. So I thought I was still talking to you guys and didn't realize that everyone was frozen and I was just talking to myself.
Yeah.
Brian, did you forget to pay the electric bill again?
Again. I don't believe so. So I apologize for that. But
Yeah.
I was just saying, I don't know if you guys heard that I was letting Mark know that I shared everything on all of our different platforms. So if anyone needs to access the different forms, And the other thing I wanted to mention was, Mark, I think it would be great for you to connect with Maria, who's on here. And she's one of our co-chairs of the legislative committee. And Lucina, I think it would be great for you to connect with the two of them in our legislative committee to talk about some of the things, some of their initiatives and some of your experience that can help that group with speaking to some of our elected officials and local representatives.
I hope Mark is, his device is catching what we're all saying. Mark, are you able to read what we're saying to you?
I do. I'm just following along with the device here that I have. But no, thank you, Deborah, and I do hear you.
Oh, good, Joe, you heard
I have
everything.
to
So
rely on these captions.
it heard everything I said. I love it. Machine heard everything I said. That makes me feel great. No, but we did talk on Saturday, and Mark explained something to me about certain, like the tactile group, which I was glad he explained that to me, because now I understand when, like, some people with hearing loss or want to start and I go, no, because of my disabilities. You may not. We all know I have other disabilities, but when you have fibromyalgia, to be touched is painful at times. It depends on the year. So I appreciate he explained that to me. And there are other things I think maybe we could learn a lot from Mark. And yes, Mark, the Brooklyn Family Support Service Advisory Council also has your information on our website too. And you're always welcome to our meetings when you can attend.
And Facebook group page.
Oh, yes, and Christopher said it's on the Facebook group page. Well, everything we say, Chris, his device captures it. All right. Somebody else?
All right, Maria.
Yes. Hi, Mark. Hi, good morning, everyone. Mark, I did write down your information. My name is Maria Willis from the Legislative Committee. Lucina is not on, but we will definitely reach out to you and looking further to working with you. Your presentation was very informative, and we will definitely reach out to you. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Maria.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mark. If anyone else reaches out with questions, I'll make sure to pass them to you if they don't contact you directly. And we'd welcome you back at any other time you want to join us and give any updates. I think it's great to have you part of this group and to help continue to advocate and spread the word to the Brooklyn population.
He's reading it first and then he'll be able to answer it. That's how I learned. He showed me what to do. And by the way, Maria, I did give him the dates for the just for the provider / then asked what's the legislative, but I did give him dates because we did see him on Saturday, and we are going to constantly send him information so he can always participate with us. This one, you know, I did help. You're welcome.
All right. Thanks again, Mark. And next we're going to move on to Rochelle with update from the family stakeholder meeting.
Thanks, Brian. Just to remind everybody that we have a family stakeholder group that consists of about 45 family members. And we meet with OPWDD every other month where we receive updates, but also have an opportunity to ask questions and have some more in-depth dialogue. And I will write up the minutes and share it on the website, but I just wanted to share a few highlights from that meeting. The commissioner's update was pretty much the same as Nina's, so I won't go into that. Our questions sort of centered on a few areas. One was the new certified residential capacity management system, which I'm sure people have heard about, but it's an attempt to finally have OPW automate the system of matching individuals with vacancies in the certified residential system based on key characteristics. It's just the initial stages, but we feel it'll be a major improvement once it gets off the ground, and the question was, well, what are we doing in the interim? And Right now, they're still implementing the certified residential opportunity process on paper. And that is not a very efficient, they acknowledge it's not a very efficient process. And the other questions that came up is, we have heard from family advocates in Westchester that there are agencies that are downsizing, taking placements offline and closing houses. And apparently that this was not approved by their local county DD council, and yet it is still going through. OPW explained that they may approve this. It is an effort that's initiated by a provider due to many factors, and some of them might be because they have a room with 4 beds, and they want to make it a room with 2 or 1 bed to be more consistent with, modern settings rule. But that still there's a concern, and the local, the legislative units and the localities can, governmental units can actually contest this and file an appeal. There's a concern that we're just losing more opportunities at a time when there's more and more aging family members, and there are more and more people in need of residential opportunities, and those opportunities are in fact decreasing instead of increasing. So that was an area for discussion. And it was also noted that even people in self-direction who may live in non-certified settings are confronting the same problem of aging parents who actually are a very integral part of their circle of support and are backup for when their ComHab workers are not available. And those parents may not be able to do that very much longer. And they also are feeling an imminent crisis in terms of residential opportunities, whether certified or non-certified. The other thing is we talked about was the change in Article 16 eligibility, where you have to be eligible for OPWDD in order to use Article 16 services that provide specialty therapy, behavioral health, etc. And there's been a lot of concern about that. OPW stated that this actually will affect very few individuals, that the goal of this move was to make space for OPW eligible people who haven't been able to get services until now. But they did commit that no person would lose their specialized therapy and behavioral health services without an alternative placement that is appropriate for that person. So they're not going to just throw people out of the clinics, which for me was somewhat reassuring to hear. And but that dialogue will continue. We talked about the new Bureau for Service Authorization and Research. And the question was, how will this integrate the data from the Coordinated Assessment System, which we all know as the CAS, and the CANS. And these are assessments that are now being implemented for every person in the OPW system. And how will it use this data? And Dr. Pettinger discussed this in a fair amount of detail. The upshot is they are trying to improve equity and access and in healthcare outcomes for our population by using this data. I'm sure many of you know that providers and self-advocates and family members have raised a lot of questions about the assessment itself, but we're not discussing that at the moment. We're going to assume this is a good assessment. But what they said they want to do is, if they will develop a scoring algorithm where if a person with certain characteristics gets a certain score on this assessment, and they are receiving a certain group of services. If another person is then assessed and they have an equivalent score, then the thinking is they should be receiving equivalent services to that control group. I'm using a little bit of statistical knowledge, and they say this will help improve equity. The question was, if we know that currently there's a lot of unmet need in our system and underutilization of services because of the lack of workforce. Aren't we essentially baking in that underutilization going forward into the future so that future recipients will only receive what people are receiving now? And won't that in fact have a disproportionate impact on people in more marginalized communities? So won't it maybe perhaps worsen equity instead of improving it? And Dr. Pettinger did say they were aware of this issue and were working on it. On the positive side, they are working with DOH and OMH and having conversations and getting access to Medicaid utilization data to really get a more refined sense of people's needs going forward. And that could be a very positive thing. But there's still a lot of questions. And the Bureau has not started yet. It's off in the future. She said they're going slow because of some of these concerns. There were issues on the self-direction templates that were issued before DOB approved the COLA and then had to be resubmitted. So they're going to try and work a better process going forward in the future when they understood the problem. And we had a final discussion on provider rate rebasing, because we had raised that previously. As family members, we're very concerned that our providers get appropriately compensated so that they can provide quality services and give raises to the staff. And we know that the rebasing is based on provider costs, and they're using the year of 2021, which was a year in the pandemic when staffing was probably at its low point, and therefore provider costs were lower than usual. And so again, were they baking in a problem of lower compensation for many providers? OPW responded that they are trying to address this by redistributing some of the ARPA money that was one-time federal money that was given to agencies, so that those agencies that perhaps had lower costs because they had couldn't hire staff, and staff is, you know, majority of an agency's expenses, that they won't be hurt too badly, and that they say that most providers will have an increase in their rates. So I think you can see from the nature of these discussions that these family groups are asking very pointed questions about OPW policy. So if any other family members here are interested, we can have a discussion about it. And anybody here can please send in any concerns that they have that we could raise after discussing with the other family groups. Our next meeting will be in November. Thank you.
Rochelle, one of the things I can add on the provider side, as providers look to battle this staffing crisis, and one of the ways we try to find retention and recruitment is to raise wages and raise salaries. That comes back to bite us too. Because when they do the rebasing and when they do the rate rationalization, they compare across the borough, or not across the borough, across the region where your rate falls. And then, like with the last rate rationalization they came out with, you're penalized when you're actually trying to do the right thing by your staff and build retention. So now the amount that you're getting is lowered because, oh, look, your rate is higher than where it should have been when they're accounting for all these things. And then it's like, well, but if I didn't do that, how much worse off would the agencies be? So it's like you can't win it on the agency side of it. So we appreciate you guys advocating on our behalf as well. I don't know how often you hear that from the provider side, but we definitely appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Debbie, you have a question?
Yes, first of all, Rochelle, that was a fantastic report. And if you need our help from myself, and yes, I'm volunteering Christopher, we'll be very happy to work and assist you. Because one issue that also happens that frustrates me is they think someone who may be so-called high functioning has to go to work, and maybe that's not appropriate for them. And there needs to be other services for this, for populations where they may be higher functioning, but they may be other reasons why it is not appropriate for them to be in the workforce. So yes, I'd be very happy. And if you would love to make any reports at the advisory council or the family provider, we'd love to have you. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And your other half, Chris?
Thank you, other half, Brian. Um, First of all, Rochelle, I agree with Debbie. I have to say, I love the report because I'm listening at the same time I'm listening to the MTA at the same time, multitasking. That's why you see headphones there and here. And one thing I just want to I'm glad you did mention, because I did listen to your meeting. I did hear the word individuals. It's just that we got to, there is a lot of things that we have to work together during this time, even with families who, even with anywhere in the New York region, because as Brian mentioned, they don't realize there are agencies who are out here, who are at these meetings, who are out there doing outreaching, and they need to know what things they need to do and how to work together as one. You know, we're not in the 20th century, guys. We're in the 21st century. You got to move forward. And I want to keep moving forward because look how strong we are. And we are going to get strong. That's why the Brooklyn Bridge stands for, that's why the Brooklyn Bridge is right behind me. And Debbie.
Thank you, Chris. All right. I don't see any other questions for you at this time, Rochelle. So thanks for that update. Very helpful and informative. I know we are running a little behind on time compared to usual. I think it's the first meeting back and a lot of big updates from IAC and OPW. So next on the agenda, Debbie, can you give a quick update on the Family Support Service Advisory Council?
Sure. Our last meeting was on September 17th. It went very well, and I'm going to just say our next meeting is going to be October 9th. I want everybody to be aware that tomorrow, the 24th, is the statewide DDAC, but on Wednesday is the statewide Family Support Advisory Council. This one important thing I really want to make everybody please do. We were able to get two or three changes from the reimbursement off the non-allowable to the allowable. We have to do it as justifications. Any agency or family members here who are having issues with reimbursement, please let me know. And we will we're working very hard. We're not going right. We know it's not going to go quick. One of the co-chair of the statewide, Ms. Gail Pato, is very good at setting up charts. So we're working very hard to get more things off the non-allowable to the allowable. So as I said, our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, October 15th, 10 a.m. Everybody's welcome. Do you want me to speed it up and do the parent and provider information?
What about it? To talk about the next meeting?
Yeah, just give the date and then.
Yeah, of course.
Sure, I want to make. Okay, as I'm the co-chair with Rosal, we had a great meeting on September 11th. We did speak about issues and services, and also we want to know what kind of subjects would you like us to speak about for the parent provider family information. The next meeting is going to be October 9th. We are at 10 a.m. and then following us is the legislative committee. So I'm willing, we did have a great meeting, but Maria Willis is the co-chair. So and we all do it on Ring Central. Okay, Brian, I'm done. Fast?
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Chris, MTA update?
Oh, do I got an MTA report? First of all, I already sent them to you, Brian. There is more update coming in as I'm listening to the MTA Railroad Committee they're up to. As you know, a lot of good news are coming up. We have a lot more accessibility train stations that are listed in the capital. And I'm not just going to mention elevators, but the areas where they're going to be fixing, updating on those. Those are all on attachment that I will suggest everyone to please go on that attachment because it's not just elevators they're announcing. They're announcing the other areas of construction they're planning to do. And just so everyone know, yes, congestion price is still in pause, but we still need to remind all our officials who are here on this meeting or listening on live on the channel, please make sure you put the funding in for accessibility because this is related. Now, adding Omni for the reduced fare. Those cards will be announced later the end of this year. So if everyone has not choose the card or the app, and you did not do it yet, you automatically will be getting the card itself, the Omni card, the one that Debbie and I have. Is similar, like even Accessorite will have the picture. Only Accessorite will have a picture of that card as well. Also, please be advised to everyone. With the MTA, this Wednesday is the Capitol meeting at 2 Broadway at 9 a.m. You guys don't have to show up in person. You can watch it on the YouTube channel, or just just click on the MTA.info. Just type in MTA board. As you're aware, there is some good news on the transit end. With MTA doing right now with the trains, we are seeing that are doing construction at certain stations. So please look at your signs, look at signages, look at the app. Accessorite app has now just been announced, updating another part of the app. If your Accessorite does not come and you need if you need to have get a car service and you don't want to have to call to get the authorization number, now that will be linked to the app starting as we speak. Right now, they have announced it today, so will be more details coming in soon. And once I get that, it will be shared to all the advisory and DD council chairs of the both councils. So please stay tuned on that. Somebody asked me this question, Brian, that what is going on with if there's any fare hike. The answer at this time is nothing has been discussing about any fare hike. So I want to be very clear. Please check your facts before you get panicky. Because right now, the only issue we're dealing with is fare invasion on the buses, on the subway, and yes, the railroad as well. But Brooklyn is not the highest number. Unfortunately, it's the one over the Valenzano Bridge and one up in the Bronx. On that, the fare invasion is higher there. We're listed as the 4th, not the 1st. So I remind everyone, please be careful. And guys, please do not park your cars at a bus stop because now the cameras are on. They will be watching you unless you have an accessibility, which federal regulation will say, handicap plate. You are allowed to drop them off quickly as a whistle on that as well. And Carrie's writing that paying on the SIRR, Staten Island Railroad, only St. George Station you have to pay. Any other station is free. So any other questions do I have before I disappeared? And I think I
I
already
don't
answered
see
Carrie's
any on
question.
my end, Chris.
And just to everyone remind you, please make sure if you're traveling on the weekends or the weekdays, please make sure you look at the app because there are going to be a lot of service changes, not just on the buses, but on the subway. And please stay off Manhattan if you're going by bus because of the gridlock on that. So everyone,
Well,
happy Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
thank you for your update, Chris. All right, so now we have some time left for agency announcements. So please, aside from putting your hand up and sharing your announcements, will be recorded and posted on the website. Also, please make sure, I know a lot of you already have, put them in the chat. You can share flyers in the chat. I post everything on the website after the meeting. Carrie, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Brian. I have a lot of events, so I've been putting them in the chat all along. But I wanted to highlight a couple, and one is Banned Book Week. I don't know if you can see this, but this is a list of books that have been banned in different places across the country. For several years now, Brooklyn Public Library has been in the forefront of providing access for teens across the country to books that are banned in their local areas through our Banned Book Initiative. So teens can get free digital library cards and access our collections if they live in an area where books are banned that they want to read. And just to be clear, the kind of books that we're banning or that are being banned are books that talk about race, books that talk about sex, sexuality, or gender, books that talk about people with disabilities. They are books that, and it's things that you would never expect, like Les Miserables, and Tango Makes Three about the penguins in the Central Park Zoo. These are the books that are getting me. All right. Anyway, so there's more information on our website, and this is really an important issue, right? This is where it starts, and then where does it go? So enough of that. We have great events coming up. I want to highlight we have a small job fair on it's more of an employment fair than a job fair, and it's at the Fort Hamilton branch. We don't do a lot of things out there. So that's on October 4th. And October 9th is really exciting. Sally Plough, who is the author of The Fire, the Water, and Maddie McGinn, will be at Brooklyn Public Library to talk about her book. For those of you who don't know this, Sally Plough is a neurodivergent author, and Maddie McGinn, the star of her book, is autistic, and it's a wonderful book. It's won 2 major awards, and I encourage you to come and find out more about it and about her. And the other things are in the chat, and we look forward to seeing you at them. If you have any questions or you need more information, I'll put my contact information back in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Next hand I see is Doris.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Doris Kahn, and I am the Outreach Coordinator for New York State Institute on Disability. We're a family support services agency. We provide evaluations for individuals who do not have Medicaid and are seeking OPWDD eligibility. For information on that, you can contact Elizabeth Sunshine at 917-699-0578, or you can email Elizabeth at esunshine@nicetinc.org. NICET also provides behavior management services to families that live in the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens. And you can contact Juliet Hawkins at 917-524-4856, or email Juliet at jhawkins@nicetinc.org. NICET also provides reimbursement for goods and services and camp for individuals that reside in the 5 boroughs. For information, you can contact Jackie Tripodi at 929-202-1115, or email her at jtripodi@nicetinc.org. NICET also has tickets for recreational outings for individuals who live in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. We do not provide recreation outing tickets to individuals who have self-direction services or reside in Manhattan. For more information, you can contact Sarah Alton at 718-494-6457, or email her at salton@nicetinc.org. NICET also provides free transportation services for individuals that in the Brooklyn, Bronx, or Staten Island for medical appointments and recreation activities for the individual and members of their family. Contact John O'Grady at 917-744-424, or you can email him at j@nicetinc.org. I look forward to working with everybody this new year, and all my information is in the chat, Brian, the phone numbers and the contact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doris. Next up is Jay.
Good morning. Just a quick note, LifeSpire has openings in Brooklyn for our crisis intervention program. We provide referral, linkage, advocacy, basically short-term case management, that type of stuff. My email is in the chat, as well as my cell phone. It's actually back in the beginning of the chat, so just scroll. And then switching hats from the Queens DD Council, we have the Queens Family Support Fair is coming up on November 15th at the Flushing Sheraton. And I've put the link in the chat as to how you can register or for more information. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay. Next up, Sandy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandy Naper with ADAPT Community Network. I'm very happy to attend this meeting today. There was a lot of great information. Anyway, ADAPT Community Network, we're having our Family Connect Summit October 16th. That's a Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. There's going to be a lot of interesting sessions that will include supporting individuals on the autism spectrum in medical settings, how to supplement in-home support outside of the OPWDD waiver and school services, navigating the special education system and the need for good evaluations, and Benefits 101. Spanish and Mandarin and ASL interpretation will be provided, and the link is in the chat. So if you want to register, just click on the link. Also, we're having a free webinar this Thursday, everything you want to know about Social Security benefits, overview of benefits, disability, supplemental Social Security income, SSI on Thursday, September 26th, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And we'll have another webinar on October 2nd, the road to obtaining eligibility for supports and services for your family. And that will be from 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. Wednesday, October 2nd. Kate Gottlieb from ADAPT Project Connect will be our speaker. Spanish and Mandarin interpretation are always provided at our webinars, and everything is in the chat, including flyers. And thank you very much, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Sandy. Next, we have Alex from Senator Prasad's office.
Hey everyone, I know it's been a long time since we all met and seen each other. I think the last time we saw each other, you guys were going to Albany, and I remember you guys are like, hey, we got to tell the legislators the issues. And then I spoke right after. I'm like, don't shoot the messengers. We're on your side. I'm with you. So, you know, Senator Prasad, she's always here to support you and make sure you guys are being represented. I just want to show some legislation, share some legislation that some of you may be aware of and some might not be aware of. She passed the biomarker testing coverage for Medicaid and private insurance to cover biomarker testing for individuals with needing precise diagnostics, which could help many, disabled individuals and people with underlying medical conditions, and to also, cover some of the treatments along with that. And she's always supported the Disability Council. We help a lot of constituents within our district to make sure that they're being advocated for. We've attended many MTA meetings to make sure that the much needed care is being provided to a lot of the stations that need accessibility and such. So hopefully, our discussions with that have been very fruitful coming up with the next budget meeting with the MTA. I'm going to post some of our upcoming events in the chat. But most notably, we just had our housing resource fair on Saturday, where we had over 38 housing agencies come and provide information on how to obtain housing and anything adjacent. So we had Con Edison there, we had National Grid, how to convert your house into something more energy efficient with solar and everything. So it was a very well attended event. We have a domestic violence event coming up Saturday, October 26th. Again, I'll post this in the chat. We have free legal services coming up, electronic recycling, toy distribution, and many other events. And if you guys have any questions for me or the senator, you could ask them right now if you want, or you can follow up with me over email. I'll leave my information in chat.
Thank you, Alex. And I know the council is part of the senator's mailing list. So whenever there's events, I try to forward them out or post them on our different platforms as well to make sure everyone's aware of that. She does
Thank
some
you.
really great events in Brooklyn, and she's been an amazing support to the council and to the population we support. So thank her
Absolutely.
for that, and thank you
Ryan,
for
I have a
attending on her
question for the
behalf.
state senator, representative, permission to speak?
Permission granted.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris.
Alex, yay, Alex, I heard what you said. Alex, I don't have to worry with you guys because Senator Prasad has been working with Karma Awara. The thing is Senator Prasad and I have been going back for years. Thanks to her, like an example, Rockaway Parkway Station is fully accessible. And thanks to her and the former Andy Byford, which he's now with Amtrak, Senator Prasad is always on our board, always on our, always on our side. So whoever said they're jumping on you, no, we don't have to jump on you. We have to jump on other officials that are in the other areas. But also, just to let you know, I do want to thank you because you did attend also the advisory council as well. So I just want to make clear that you're the only elected official I've seen have tended even during COVID with both councils with an S. And there was a time you did tend the New York City Fairs Committee. So, I know Rochelle will agree with me on that one because Roxanne Prasad has been working with our population the highest what we ever seen. It'd just be nice if we can rub that into the other officials in the area of the borough.
Yes, sir. We'll work on that. Everything takes time, but no, I really appreciate you guys for always inviting us and making sure that you bring up these important issues because, we're here to represent you. At the end of the day, who else is going to be there for you? So we have to make those efforts. You shouldn't be fighting this without any support. So that's why, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I will share it with the senator. But again,
And
we're
don't
always
forget Wednesday. And don't forget Wednesday is the full board meeting. You can watch it on the YouTube or show up there at 9 a.m. at 2
Yes, sir.
Broadway.
So I don't think we had that in our calendar, but I'm glad that you brought it up in the meeting because I just sent it to our scheduler so we can try to attend.
Yes,
But
try to
thank you
be
so
there at
much.
8:30. If you're going to be there in person, everyone, please be there at 8:30. So you go up. They do check your bag, and once you go up, they will register you in if you want to speak. If you don't want to speak, you just want to listen, that's fine. Or you can do it on Zoom. The information has been sent out. If no one has it, please let me know, and I will send it out again. But the MTA board meetings start from September to July, and they do not meet in August. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks again, Alex. And next up, we have Nigel.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Nigel Thompson. I'm the co-founder and co-executive director of Kindred Bakery BK. We offer baking skills for young adults and teenagers at the Flatbush Caribbean Marketplace, right on Keaton and Flatbush. We have our Saturday program just resumed. So if you have any young people who want to participate, please invite them. We are fully inclusive. We have a mixture of young people with disabilities or neurotypical young people as well. So it's a fully integrated setting. And myself, I'm the father of a almost 20-year-old autistic young man. So this program is kind of geared towards providing options and opportunities for young people like him and just marginalized youths in general, because we have a lot of young people out there who need a space to learn some skills. And that's what we have put together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nigel. Next up, we have Sandy.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I'm Sandy, and I'm from EHAB Human Services. I just wanted to share with everybody that we have a couple openings in Brooklyn. We offer after-school respite, recreational respite, in-home respite, and site-based rehabilitation services where we have a couple openings. We also offer community habilitation if anybody's interested. I did put my information in the chat. Please feel free to reach back out to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, I don't see any other hands for announcements. So if anyone would like to jump in before we end, please do so now. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Oh, we have a hand. Debbie.
We did not mention that the legislative committee and the co-chair is Maria Willis with Lucina. She didn't get, they meet directly at 11 a.m. on the second Wednesday. So they're at 11 a.m., but we both are using the Ring Central. So Christopher will, if you need it, it's on our website, and Chris will put in the connection on the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Go ahead, Maria.
Just to piggyback on what Debbie said, we did meet September 11th, and we will be meeting. Our next meeting is October 9th at 11 a.m. And basically, the last meeting we went through the topic of the season with its voters registration and elections. So we did all of that during that meeting. We are discussing during the next meeting how to create a workshop for parents and others to be able to advocate and give them the language to present to elected officials, and go into the elected officials' office, not only during election time or rally time, but throughout the whole year, go into the elected officials' office, knowing what to say, knowing how to advocate for their loved ones. So that's what we will be discussing at the next meeting, and how to create a workshop and the date for that as well. That concludes my report.
Thank you. And I strongly encourage everyone to participate in the legislative committee. Everything we talk about is advocating and getting to your elected officials, and that group is where we can really get things in motion and make a plan to start getting out there more and making sure that the council and its population is on everyone's radar throughout Brooklyn and New York State. All right, we have a couple more hands. Good thing we stayed on. Thanks, Debbie. Miss Morris.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Rabine Morris, and I am case manager at Rags Home Care. This is my first year actually getting fully involved with the Brooklyn Council. So I'm very appreciative with all of the information that you guys are sharing. I would like to get to, familiarize with every organization. I'm very big on dealing with our special needs population. So I'm looking forward to everything. I did post my flyer and information in the chat. So at any point in time, if anyone is looking to connect with me, I welcome it. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here, Rabine. And Alex, you have another question or comment?
Yes, I just wanted to know the legislative hearing. I apologize, I didn't hear it. You said next week, Monday at 11?
Alex,
It meets October 9th at 11 a.m.
Okay.
Hi, Alex.
Hi,
Hi,
Alex.
how's it going?
Okay.
So
It's Debbie Ann Marie. We work together, Alex.
yeah, I know. It's nice seeing you again, Ms. Deborah. I know you guys deal with David a lot. He's not here today, but
Right.
October 9th at 11 a.m. Is that virtual?
Yes.
Yes.
Ring
Okay.
Central.
And
That's
if you look at, if you go to our website, bkddcouncil.org, and go to the calendar section, the link should be there with the Ring Central link.
I got you. Thank you so much. I apologize.
And you can also show up the early one at 10, if you would
At
like.
10? Okay.
That's the Family Provider Information Committee, and we're trying to get as much information. So if you don't want to be a speaker there, you're more than welcome.
And will we get extra points if we come at 10?
Yes, I'll give you extra points.
Yes, thank you. All right, thank you, Ms. Deborah. Thank you, Maria.
Give us 20 points, you give us Senator Prasad, that would be a double points.
We'll see. We'll see about that. I got to check her calendar.
Well, she can always pop in on the phone just to say welcome. And that's it. I take whatever I can get.
No problem. I'll try to send it to her to see if she's available. Okay. I can't guarantee that. Okay.
We understand that.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see. Robin, is your hand up again, or is that from before?
That was from before. My apologies.
Okay.
Let me take
No,
it
no
out.
worries. Just want to make sure I didn't skip anyone. So again, welcome back, everyone. We're back and rolling again. Thank you for attending today. Keep an eye out on emails. I send out as much as I can to share information. Keep an eye on our website, on our Facebook page. And if anyone has anything to share, please make sure to forward it, and I'll get it out to our mailing list, which after our fair at the end of in June last year, we've gone from 200 people on our mailing list to over 600. So we're getting the message out there. We're getting a lot more involvement. And hopefully we get more people showing up on our meetings and being part of all the good stuff we're doing. So thanks again for attending today, and we will see you guys at next month's general meeting, which is October 28th.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a
Thanks,
good
Brian.
day,
Thank you.
everyone.
Enjoy
Have
the
a
rest of
great
your day,
afternoon.
everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
filling in for my blackout, Marjorie.
Thank
you.
And everyone
Good
else, and
group
Debbie.
effort. Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome anytime. We love helping you. You're a great chair. See, I said it before everybody left.
Oh, I'm still recording. Good thing I didn't stop yet. Thanks for saying
That's
that.
great. See?
I'm just gonna clip that part. That'll be the meeting summary.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, I like that.
Brian, I dropped my email in the chat. You can add me to your mailing list.
Yes, of course.
Great. And I'm probably going to reach out to you regarding something. Is this 718-788-5252 your number?
That's for my agency. You can call me on my direct line also, either way. 917-671-9902.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, hold on.
You'll get to me either way. It's no big deal.
917, go ahead.
671
671
9902.
9902. Okay, I'm with the Department of Education, Brooklyn TCAT for students with an IEP. So I'll reach out. We'll talk.
Oh yeah, we definitely need to talk.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
Even I need to talk with you because I was a former parent member.
Oh,
All right.
okay. Fantastic. All right, we'll reach out. Thanks, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy New Year, everybody.